Queen of your heart, looking over the kingdom, just someone to...
Well, my name is Alex. I have a Instagram and YouTube Love Sugar Show. I just want to thank you for taking this time for doing this interview.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
And today we are joined by Gus. He is a part of the band Cold Slither, so we're really excited to get into some questions and find out more about this album. So the first question that I ask anyone that I ever interview is, how's everything going, not just in your personal life, but also musically as well?
It's funny. First off, good. Very grateful, but overwhelming at times, just because I have um, 3 to 4 kind of full-time bands going at once. So it's like, got to finish this record, got to tour on this record, got to play this show. It's a lot. But you know what? It's a great position to be in. So I'm grateful.
Well, that's awesome. So really excited to talk about this album. I kind of want to talk about the idea behind the band and the album, if you don't mind sharing some with that.
Well, it dates back 40 years ago. There was an episode of G.I. Joe, the cartoon, in which these characters named the Dreadnoks, who were employed by the evil villain Cobra, formed this fictitious heavy metal band to put subliminal messages in the music to take over the minds of the masses and conquer the world or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
40 years later, this one episode kind of spawned its own cult following, and fans were making their own shirts. And, Hasbro kind of decided to capitalize on it. And this year's Comic-Con exclusive box set are the action figures for the band Cold Slither.
Mm-hmm.
They partnered up with Rainy Phoenix Music, which the director of that label is Gerardo Martinez, who is, like me, a lifelong, since we were kids, G.I. Joe massive fan. Like, we're both G.I. Joe nerds.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's him and I have had this idea for years, actually. Mainly his idea. He's the record company guy. But, a little over a year ago now, he called me and said he had spoken to Hasbro and they were moving forward with these action figures. And, he made the deal and, basically hired me to make a record.
That's awesome.
It's for a G.I. Joe fan who's a musician, it was like, pretty mind blowing.
And is that kind of like is the episode kind of like the snippets that you hear throughout the album?
Being such a fan, I guess I had this task of what does Cold Slither sound like aside from this cartoon episode song.
Right.
So I had to kind of envision, as a musician and also as a fan of the canon and of what it is G.I. Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of based it on that. And then as I wrote every song, I just would think of like, oh man, this clip from this one episode, because, I'm a dork and I still watch the cartoons even as an adult. So I kind of had a pretty good idea of what clips would work. So really a couple of them were from that episode, but they were just kind of random ones that I kind of would think of as I'm writing the song would really fit that particular song. So they're not random within the songs. They're just kind of randomly throughout the series that I thought would work with the song, title or whatever.
So being a longtime G.I. Joe fan, how much pressure was it on you to take this fictional band and turn it into reality?
A lot. I talk about this with like my normal friends all the time. I play in this other band who does something similar where we kind of recreate new versions of this, now extinct band called Death. We kind of like reimagine their records. So it's the same sort of pressure where you have to you feel like you have to deliver for the fan base something that's going to be up to their standards. And, being a G.I. Joe fan my whole life, I mean, I remember getting off the phone with him that day and I was just like, oh man, like where do I even start? But, you just sort of, I re-recorded the original song
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of just sort of based the rest of the album off that. Like I knew I wasn't going to go a million miles from what that first song sounded like. So that really kind of dictated what the vocals were going to sound like. It dictated how heavy the music was probably going to be and also how light the music was going to be. So it sort of set my parameters for me. And I just tried to sort of stay within that and just write songs that I think were just good songs,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the G.I. Joe connection. I just wanted to write good songs. So,
Mm-hmm.
I guess time will tell if I achieve that.
So what was like the most challenging thing about writing the album?
Um, Myself, I guess just getting out of my own head, because I think when I wrote the first like original song and I submitted it to the record company and Hasbro,
Mm-hmm.
and when both of them gave me the thumbs up, I kind of breathed a sigh of relief and I was like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of ran with it. And, at that point, I just wrote songs that I kind of took myself out of it in a way and was like, what would I want to hear
Mm-hmm.
as just a G.I. Joe fan that's waiting for this album? What, and also kind of staying within the parameters again of I have to understand that there's going to be heavy metal fans that are G.I. Joe guys, but there's also G.I. Joe guys that are not necessarily heavy metal fans. So I didn't want to make it crazy heavy, nor did I want to make it like too, 80s hair metal-y or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to create this sort of sweet spot where, hopefully most people are like, hey, this is really cool songs, actually.
Right. Well, I know you might be a little bit biased, but how do you think you did on the album with everything?
I mean, I think every musician, regardless of what the album is, like you do feel at the end of it, okay, yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I remember along the way I had like one or two friends that were my target demographic. They were, kind of heavy metal dudes, but they love G.I. Joe. And I trust them enough that I can play things for them and be like, tell me the truth. Don't just tell me what you think I want to hear. You tell me the truth. Am I on the right track or not? And, luckily both of them were like, this is what I think. This is sounds like Cold Slither to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, but even now, the record comes out officially 2 weeks from today. So, there's always that little bit of nervousness of like, what are people going to think of this? We released or they've released two original songs that people seem to have liked. So that was a big relief. Um, you know, I guess right now I'm feeling, as a G.I. Joe fan, I think I've done, G.I. Joe meant a lot to me when I was a kid, and I feel like I've at least, been respectful to the brand and to the Dreadnoks and like, in other words, like it really did come from this genuine place. And that's like my big thing with music. As long as music is honest and genuine, I think it's good.
Yeah, for sure. I listened to the album twice. Never really got into G.I. Joe, but I really enjoyed it. I listened to it once and I
Oh,
listened to it again, and I'm like, this is really good. It's unique, and that's
thank you.
hard to get.
Appreciate that.
So it was really good. So if people don't listen to this, they are missing out for sure.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So I have to ask, was there like a moment when you were recording where it just kind of clicked and you knew like, yeah, this is going to work, like this is it?
Again, I think when I recorded the original song and then, kind of I kept really closely to the original idea. I just sort of modernized it and made it much heavier with like real guitar and real drums or whatever, and recorded all the vocals. And when I submitted that and I got that approved, that was like one hurdle. Okay, cool. I'm at least in the door now. And then when I wrote the first original song, like, hey, this is what this band is going to sound like.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to submit the lyrics because obviously, Hasbro doesn't want like, I'm gonna cut your head off and drink your blood. Like, you know what I mean? Like the lyrics had to be, you know, again, fit within a parameter.
Right.
And even that, like, I didn't want to write lyrics that were too childish and stupid because most consumers of this album are going to be my age or, maybe just a few years younger or older. So
Mm-hmm.
nobody wanted to hear, we're going to fight G.I. Joe because there was good guys. So, you know what I mean? I didn't want it to be stupid.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be very, very, very aggressive. So I tried to make them, fairly adult-like while still being, PC or whatever.
Right.
Um, when Hasbro okayed the lyrics, because I had to submit all of those. So I actually wrote all the lyrics before I wrote any music because I had to get all of this stuff approved. And then when they approved the music, and then they approved the second one, was probably after the second one that I was like, I felt like free. I could just write what I felt and record it, put it into song. And, every single one that I did, I would submit, submit, submit. And, before we knew it, like they had agreed to, they liked all of 9 of the songs that I had written. And yeah, then I just went and recorded them for real. And I got a great guy, this guy Matt LaPlante, to mix and master the record, and I think he did a great job. I think the record sounds great. Like whether you think the songs suck or not, like it sounds really good, at
Mhm.
least. So, I'm really happy with that.
Well, what do you think Zartan would say about this album?
And therein lies, I think being a GI Joe guy really worked. Yeah, in other words, like I don't know. I'm sure any professional songwriter could have made this record, but knowing how much I know of the Dreadnoks and Zartan in particular,
Mm-hmm.
he was a full-blown psychotic mercenary, and he would have been really punk rock about it. He wouldn't have cared if anybody liked the record or not. He would have been happy with it, so that's enough for him. Um, I think that, yeah, Zartan would be like, well, if you don't like it, don't listen to it.
Do you think
No,
it'd be an album
is
that he
he?
would play when he went on like missions and things like that?
What's that?
Do you think it would be an album that he would play when he goes on missions and things like that?
Well, it's interesting because the Dreadnoks in the cartoon and in the comic books, they were like a motorcycle gang. They were, they were like punk rock. And so I think they would have listened to any like anti-authoritative, authoritative music like punk rock or heavy metal or things like that. Like they would have definitely been anything anti-establishment, anti-authority. Um, and they rode motorcycles. So like nobody else in the canon could have made this band other than those characters. So brilliant writing on the part of the GI Joe writers.
That's cool. So, can we talk about each persona that each of the band members have taken with this album?
Well, yeah, luckily, the bass player Ross, aka Torch, he's a fellow lifelong GI Joe nerd like me. So like I remember when I called him, I was excited to be like, "Yo, dude, you sitting down?" Because I knew almost immediately I wanted him in the band because I know he's such a GI Joe guy like me. So I
Mm-hmm.
know he would understand, like I do, the characters themselves, like the psychology behind these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like and it really has been beneficial because like he's handling a bunch of the video element for this live show in 2 weeks, and
Mhm.
so he knows what to do. He knows like what fans want because he's a fan. And Matt, aka Ripper, he's like a big comic book nerd, and he grew up on GI Joe and Transformers. So he's like, he's like he's in, and he gets it too. The drummer is an actual British guy who literally looks like the cartoon character, and he's a great drummer, and he's like toured the world or whatever, so he's like a pro. But he
Mhm.
checks off all of those boxes. So like we joke that he's the only real Dreadnought in the band because he like literally talks the talk and walks the walk. But um, I think at the end, I obviously I wanted to work with people that I know and like and respect and they're friends. But I definitely am glad that, at least three-quarters of the band are genuine G.I. Joe guys. And everybody's a professional touring musician who's been touring for decades at this point. So the live show is going to be good.
Mhm.
And everybody's going to, deliver. Therein lies one stark difference between us and actual Dreadnoks. The actual Dreadnoks wouldn't care at all about the live show. They would just want to get paid and walk out and leave. We actually will care and really try to put on the best show we can. So, and it's being filmed. I'm being told, and it's going to be recorded. So yeah, I mean, like I've been in rehearsal all week. I'm going to
Mhm.
rehearsal right after this, so it's it'll be good. Unlike the real Dreadnoks.
Well, the good news is you can always introduce the last band member to GI Joe because you'll have time to watch it in between, right?
Right, exactly.
So how does it feel? Like, is it all becoming real, especially like about to do a live show of this, this fake band, but you're gonna bring it to like reality?
You know what's funny? It's that part of it. I'm sort of not allowing it to hit me so much
Mm-hmm.
because I'm still like pro musician. I have a job to do guy, and I'm just rehearsing these songs, and it's just my process before I go on tour. I just have it to where everything's kind of like muscle memory, and I'm not really thinking. I'm just playing. So I've been in that mode. Earlier this week, we were told that we were going to be doing a full blown meet and greet at Comic Con on
Mm-hmm.
Friday, in full get up or whatever. I think I allowed a little bit of the giddiness to get in that day, and I was like, it sort of hit me. I was like, oh my God, like, and it's like, if you're into the nerd fandom thing, like, outside of that bubble, it doesn't really matter, but inside of that bubble, it matters a lot. And inside of that bubble, this is one of those things that I just still can't believe I'm doing. And for the rest of time, no matter what happens, I will always be the guy that wrote the Cold Slither record. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm now I've now become a piece of this story that for me started when I was a kid in 1983 or 4 or whatever year it was. And it played a significant role in my life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have Transformer tattoos, I got G.I. Joe tattoos. Like, it's a big part of my life, even before any of this happened.
Right.
So, for me, it means a great deal and it's a huge honor. And I think that would be one thing that I would want all of the G.I. Joe fans to know, especially today. We live in a world of a lot of cynicism. And, even when the first song came out, a lot of the comments were like, this must be AI. This must be AI. Everybody's so quick
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, because it's the big mean corporation. Uh, I would like everybody to know that number one, the guy at the record company is a gigantic G.I. Joe fan with a massive toy collection. The guy that wrote all the songs is also a massive G.I. Joe fan with a massive toy collection. And we genuinely love GI Joe, and it means a lot to us. So like, whether you kind of like the songs or not, the one thing you can't say is that this is some corporate BS just thrown together. It really wasn't. Like I really cared a lot about this record and these songs, and and how they would stand the test of time.
I think a lot of people do say things are AI though because it's too good to be true. And they just want to, not lead themselves to disappointment. So they're like, oh, it must be AI. There's no way that something this good could happen. So I think when people say that, it is kind of a compliment because they want it to be real, but AI makes these things that obviously aren't real.
I mean, I guess that's sort of the way I took the comments. I even kind of joked around. I was like, I guess this must mean it's just so good it can't be real, so
Yeah.
um but then I've also seen some comments on some of the GI Joe pages on Facebook or whatever that I'm a member of or whatever, and they're like, yeah, this must just be another cash grab from Hasbro, and it's like, it's full disclosure, I haven't taken a single penny to make this record thus far because I wasn't driven by money to make this album. It was this thing where it was this almost this like this like you're bestowed this task that it's your honor that they laid it on you. You know what I mean? Like, wow, oh my God, like I have to do this now, and you hope to not screw it up.
Yeah.
It's like making a movie. I see your Jurassic Park shirt. I love the new movie. I thought it was good. But
Yeah.
whoever made it, I'm sure had a lot of pressure on their back. They're like, "Oh my God, I'm making a Jurassic Park movie. I want to make sure the fans like it."
Yeah, for sure. Well, it definitely says a lot about your passion, especially, when you're just like, it's not even about the money. It's about, I want to do this because I love this. So it definitely shows.
Yeah, I mean, and it was beneficial to all parties involved that I was able to make the record myself. I played the drums, I played the bass, I played the guitar, sang on it, I wrote the songs, blah 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 blah. So I was able to just, in other words, if I would have had to have hired musicians, then, maybe somebody else isn't going to want to do it for free because they're just like, well, yeah, I don't know, I better get paid. I wasn't concerned with money at all. Um, you know, if the record sells 1 million copies, yeah, hopefully they they break me off a little something. But I still, to me, this is just like, again, for the rest of my life, I'm the guy that wrote the Cold Slither record. This record that people have been, thinking about for 40 years. I'm the guy that did it. Like, what an honor. Like that,
Yeah,
you can't put a value on that.
for sure. Like you said, you're like a part of the history now, and that will be forever. So, are there any sort of Easter eggs that are hidden in this album for G.I. Joe fans?
Oh, every single song. I mean, even the song titles, like there's deep cuts all over it. All through the lyrics. Yeah, they're everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And I guess maybe subconsciously that was sort of my way of like letting everybody know, like, hey, these aren't just like AI written lyrics. Like these are the lyrics came from someone that knows what they're talking about. I've been watching G.I. Joe for 40 years. I've been watching this cartoon. I know these characters like they're my friends. Like,
Mhm.
I know what I'm talking about.
So, I have to ask, is this just going to be a one album type of project, or is there more to come?
You know, every single interview I've done, that question comes up. And, the honest answer is I hope that there's more music. At the end of the day, the reality is it's Hasbro's intellectual property, so they have to
Mhm.
okay every and anything. And I would imagine a record company, if this first record sells really well, I'm guessing that Hasbro gets a piece of every record sold because it's their IP.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, honestly, and this is my answer to the question, is it's in the hands of you, the people. If the record sells well, and Hasbro is like sitting back going, oh, wow, we could just collect checks. Hey, go make another one of those.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, video of the show comes out and New York City wants a show and Chicago wants a show and Miami wants a show and maybe even London, England wants a show or whatever. Wherever G.I. Joe is big and they want Cold Slither to play, give me a call. So it's in the hands of the people. I really hope. I will say like today, Decibel Magazine. So by the time this comes out, I don't know if this will be out or not, but Decibel Magazine, I did write a new song for like a thing. Um, so there actually is another new Cold Slither song that I'm going to record vocals on today. So, we'll see where things go. But ultimately, um, kind of falls on my shoulders if I wrote a good enough record.
Mm-hmm.
My hope is, you know, my hope would be that people listen to this album out of like sheer curiosity or novelty, like, oh, let me hear the Cold Slither record. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope they walk away from it going, damn, that was actually a pretty good album. I would like to listen to that again. And maybe they'll buy the vinyl or maybe they'll buy a t-shirt or whatever. And like I said, at the end of the day, you have to be realistic. Hasbro is a corporation that, if money comes in,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to want to make more. So, at the end of the day, if people buy it, they'll call on me to make more of it. So you know, that's what I'm hoping for.
So you are ready to go as soon as they call. You're like, okay, let's keep going.
Oh, it's funny. Like after I wrote the record, I was just, it was pretty consuming. And then when I got the call recently to write this other song, I was like, oh man, is there any gas in the tank? And I wrote the music for it in like a day.
Oh,
And then I
wow.
wrote the lyrics like right later that night I wrote the lyrics. So I was like, okay, no, there's still plenty of creative juice if I need to make more Cold Slither music. I'm now fully confident it'll just come out.
So hopefully you haven't been asked this question before, but if Cobra Command were managing your tour, what kind of chaos would ensue?
Oh, this is this is where like you could see what happens. And it's funny, the bass player Ross reminded me because everybody's calling this the first Cold Slither concert. It's actually not. In the cartoon, they actually do play a show, but Cobra Commander's involved, and much like Cobra Commander always, it's just it just falls apart. GI Joe comes in and busts it up. So if Cobra Commander was completely in charge and the real Dreadnoks were doing this, we'd probably play one song and then the place would end up being burned down.
That's a,
So
that's a hot show.
yeah.
I just have one last question here for you. Is there anything that you would like to say to people who are interested, whether they're G.I. Joe fans or not, or want to come to the show? Just like anything you'd like to say about this album in closing.
I think if you're at Comic Con, I guess I don't know when this podcast will come out, but I heard just 2 days ago that tickets are close to selling out. So it's close to sold out. If you're at Comic Con, I even if you're a moderate GI Joe fan, this show is going to be part of comic book GI Joe nerd geek history. You know what I mean? Like it's this, and I guess I'll just say this: there's a little bonus surprise at the end of this concert that nobody's expecting. I was even blown away by this. So there's going to be some stuff that happens at this show that again, if you're in that bubble of, whatever, geekdom, nerddom, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be a really cool experience. And to be part of it, hopefully it'll be a night you'll always remember because there is no promise that there's going to be another Cold Slither show. So as of right now, it's the only show that'll happen. Um, I can promise everybody that every single member of this band is taking it incredibly seriously. I've been rehearsing all week with the drummer. The bass player and guitar player live in California, and I'm arriving like 5 days before the show, and we're rehearsing the whole time. So it's going to be a good, solid performed show. And there's going to be some cool surprises. So it should hopefully be like a historic night within the, the world of GI Joe.
Well, that's awesome. Well, for anyone who is interested, this is the album full right here. It does come out on
Nice.
July the 25th through Raining Phoenix Music. And to make it super easy, I'll leave a link under the video so you can click on it. I listened to it twice. I usually listen to albums at least once, but this is worth that second time. Probably will listen to it more, so you guys definitely want to make sure to check it out. So thank
Awesome.
you
Thank
again.
you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Enjoy your rehearsal. Good luck with everything. And it is awesome that you're going to be a part of G.I. Joe history.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it. Nice talking with you.
All right. Take care.